Join us on a captivating journey as we explore the charm, history, and vibrant culture of Wilkes County. Discover the hidden gems, inspiring stories, and remarkable people that make Wilkes a place worth knowing and celebrating. Join us now and experience the unique essence of Life in Wilkes.
R.G. Absher, it's good to see you again, friend.
Great to be here, Carl. And it's always fun and adventure doing these interviews and talking about Wilkes County history and North Carolina history.
You know, we've just got so many exciting things to talk about. But before, we'll have a personal thing in the beginning, because you may not know about this yet. But remember last fall when we were doing work at Whippoorwill Academy?
Yes.
And for Life in the Carolinas, for our TV show, we produced an entire episode. And that's normally not what we do. We'll do a segment. And, you know, we put three of them together and that makes a show. But this one, we did the entire episode at Whippoorwill Academy. And it turned out great. So remember, you were on it, and Doug Mitchell and his family and the artisans, all these interesting people were on it. And we really put a lot of effort into that one, and it paid off. So we just got a People's Choice Telly Award on that one. And I was really happy about that because, you know, the reason that I was happy about that, number one, people do the judging. But more than that, they were all my friends. These are all people, you know, that over the years, look, we've got to know each other. We've become friends over the years. And that was just extra special.
That's the best kind of win-win there is.
Yeah, it is, when we can win with our friends. Okay, RG, what we want to talk about for Life in Wilkes today is a great deal of your life, because I can't remember how long we've known each other, but it's been a long time. And from the very beginning, you were always talking about the great outdoors. You were talking about the Greenway, the waterways, with such excitement. So that's what I'd like for us to talk about today on Life in Wilkes. Let's talk about what's happening in Wilkes County as it relates to our greenways and our waterways. And you're in a great position to know all about that, right?
Yes.
Tell folks what you do and how you see the state of our great outdoors.
Exactly. Well, I'm still working in the outdoors, with being with the executive director of the Yadkin River Greenway. And in fact, last week I was out on the Greenway several days. And when you're out there with the resource up close, you can sense and feel, and you can also see others enjoying and basically commuting with nature and with other people engaged in outdoor recreation. It's really neat to see that communication and that interaction that people enjoy when they're outside.
When you look at Wilkes County, we have a very large county as far as landmass, right?
Yes.
And you look at how big the county is and the actual resources that we have with the waterways and the parkways. Do those match up? I mean, do we have a great representation of outdoor activities for not only our citizens to be involved with, but guests, people that come from all over the world? Talk about that.
Well, one thing that draws people, just as it did the early colonists that came to Wilkes County, was the Yadkin River and the water and the natural resources of local mountains and freshwater streams that feed the Yadkin. And, of course, in modern-day times, you can get out and explore the Yadkin recreationally and have a sense of the history. You have a sense of the outdoor recreation that people enjoy, the sense of the environmental connection that we have to the natural resources. All those things give you a total experience that's pretty hard to find. And we're fortunate enough here in Wilkes County to have this Yadkin River and all the adventures that go with that in our backyard.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. You said something about, I think I heard you say mental, and the idea that this is just good for our mental health, right?
It is. Relaxation, rejuvenation, when placed in the 22nd century lifestyle, will definitely add a lot of refreshment and energy to a person's life. If you have a day, an 8-hour day, and if you can take a portion of that 8-hour day and be outdoors and actually feeling and recreating in that environment, it's going to recharge your batteries. and make you feel better and give you a big lift.
I can't remember if you and I talked about this before, but I had this conversation with someone involved with the outdoor environment as a profession. And it was a conversation about doctors and people who are taking care of actually writing prescriptions for their patients to go take a walk on the Greenway, to go fishing, to do something in the great outdoors. Do you buy into that?
I do, and I've actually had first person accounts where people believe that their exercise routines on the Greenway have definitely helped them live longer. Mm-hmm. And they appreciate those opportunities to get outdoors and to move, to breathe, to exercise, increase your heart rate, and to do those on a routine basis will add to your long life and add to rejuvenation and a feeling of recreation. And it's sort of like reinventing yourself when you can go outside and recreate outdoors.
So we're not just talking about a theory. We're living this, right? Because,
sure.
As the years go on, I mean, you've done so many incredible things in your professional career, right?
Yes.
So you've done a lot of things professionally taking care of the great outdoors, right?
I was a park ranger at W. Scott Reservoir for the early 1980s till I retired there in 2010.
Right.
My career spanned about 32 years, and it was a great adventure every day to know that I could go out there and get in the boat and go out on the lake. And if I wanted to go out on some trails, I could. And so in your daily job, I decided, that's a great thing to have as a routine. So when you move on into another career, remember that, hold of that, and go out and recharge and enjoy those outdoor activities.
So wait a minute. So you were professionally, that was your job to do this.
Yes.
And then after that, then you continue your job on, right? You continue working in that area. So, as the years pass, are you a walking testament to the value of that living outdoors? I have a lot of friends who are in your type of environment, the type of background, and they're in their late 70s, 80s, and they're still going and going well, and they seem to be mentally balanced and loving life. So even though you do it as a job, the benefits of nature are impossible to escape, right?
Right, and it's another aspect of it is you can have your own personal nature study experiences by being outdoors. If you're interested in wildflowers, if you're interested in animals, including snakes,
right?
If you're interested in animals and wildlife and nature and tree identification, wildflowers, all those kinds of things you can study in the laboratory that we have, which is really quite good here in Wilkes County. We have a lot of different types of environments. There are different types of habitats at Stone Mountain State Park than there are up on the Blue Ridge Parkway, and different types of habitats at W. Scott Reservoir, and different habitats that you find in the Brushy Mountains. So we have a lot of micro ecosystems scattered throughout Wilkes County that all of them are great to get out and explore in.
So let's explore that just a moment, because you were naming some very specific places with some very specific things there. So let's say a family moves here. They move to Wilkes County, or they live here now, right? It's a young family, and the kids are excited about being outside. Mom and Dad are as well, and they begin this journey. And they start, let's say, Stone Mountain or the reservoir or Cub Creek, right? Mm-hmm. So they start in one of these places. How long would it take to have all the experiences, or is it possible that it is a lifelong journey?
Well, it's a lifelong journey, and discovery finds, there are ways that each and every day that you'll find discovery. When you're outside, you'll find something different. Even if it's the same place that you were yesterday, you might see something different or have a different slant on something. And, of course, during the growing season, some wildflowers, for instance, come in May and are gone in July. And some come in that are not visible in spring, come through and bloom in July and midsummer. Of course, some plants bloom in fall. And animal wildlife movement is different, too, for each species throughout the year. And when we get into the hot period of summer, which we are right now, a lot of times wildlife, in many cases, becomes a little bit more dormant and slows down like we should when it's 95 degrees outside.
Right.
So, but you can get more attuned to these kinds of things. And some people even enjoy taking logs at what their daily adventures are when they get out and enjoy the trails and that kind of thing, because they do change and evolve depending on what time of year you're talking about.
Do you recommend that, journaling, keeping that log of these different experiences that you have?
Yes.
Have you done that?
I have done that before. And when I was at Carr Scott Reservoir, for instance, I would keep a log and document which wildflowers would be in bloom at various times, because park visitors that were in the campgrounds would ask you in July, what's blooming, what can you see right now?
Right.
But so I started keeping a log on those kinds of things. I sure did. And a log definitely helps you become more aware, and it helps you remember, too, what you experienced. But that's a great way to enjoy nature.
Can you imagine your life now had it not been for those outdoor experiences? What would your life be like now if you had not had the benefit of the great outdoors, of being able to, have that basically tactile relationship with nature, the plants, the animals, and just, having that experience of grounding? When
I was in Boy Scouts in the early 1970s, I got out on the Appalachian Trail for the first time, and that very thing became something I thought about, and still practice to this day. Be aware of what your surroundings are, enjoy what's out there, take it for the time and place that it is, and just get out and do it, and you'll be surprised at the feedback of what you'll find out. And not all of it's something you catalog in a book with scientific names and things like that, but a lot of it are things that you observe, that you see throughout nature's clock, throughout the day, throughout the time of the year as the calendar swings into motion. So I started doing that when I was basically going up on the Appalachian Trail as a Boy Scout back as far back as the early 1970s.
Wow. So you've had this experience for a long time. Has it made a difference? We all have, issues we go through in life, health issues. Do you think that area of grounding, the area of experiences when we've had that, there's something about it that helps us heal better?
There is. I, for instance, when I was a student at NC State, I went on a field trip out in the Outer Banks, and we walked through a salt marsh.
Right.
And that was an incredible experience. I look back at that, and it's kind of eye-opening just to get out and experience nature as it is, time and place, where you're at, and the differences. And that salt marsh along the Outer Banks coast is much different than the habitat up here in the Brushy Mountains over here. So that was a good lesson and a good experience. It made sort of wake up and see, to become attuned to your natural surroundings and pay attention to them, and you'll learn a lot.
You'll learn a lot, and I think we're more grateful, aren't we?
Sure.
I don't know about you, RG, but when I'm out walking, and I'll go out, take my little dog out for a walk, this little French bulldog. They're very intuitive anyway, and have these great personalities. And we'll be walking along, and I'll just stop. I'll just stop, and he'll stop, and I say, "Let's just listen." And we listen. We hear the birds. Usually it's about 6:37 in the morning, Right, so it's early in the morning. I like to walk early, and we're out. And everything's waking up, And I've gotten to where I said, "Oh, there's a cardinal, there's a finch." I hear all these birds, and then I hear the rooster crowing. Maybe 2 miles down the road, and then I'll hear this donkey. That I know a farmer has got. 3 or 4 miles away. It just echoes out, and that really feeds my soul.
It really does. And I'm really pleased at this time and place to see the groups like the Outdoor Economy here in the county that's active right now and planning and trying to come up with some great ways to synergize and to gather the energy of all of our possibilities and natural resources.
That's it, though. Energy. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So that was the experience. That's what I have in the morning. It's the energy of nature, of the environment. I never got that in Charlotte. It was a different kind of a sound.
Sure.
There were many wonderful things in Charlotte. I love Charlotte. But I never heard the abundance of quiet and then nature chirping in.
And, of course, there are efforts out there to capitalize on this. There's the group known as the Yadkin Valley Heritage Corridor.
Right.
So they've recognized, a lot of these groups have, that Wilkes County, we have a special set of natural resources that come together. We have the Yadkin River, the Brushy Mountains, the Blue Ridge Mountains are close by. Parks like Stone Mountain State Park, W. Carscott Reservoir, Blue Ridge Parkway. We have so many different, what I call amenities, that we are in an area to become. Some communities refer to this as set of conditions as trail towns, and we are becoming, I think, a trail town because we're and that is something that kind of emerged out west years ago, talking about trail towns and trail towns that draw people in.
What does that look like? What does it mean to be a trail town?
A trail town, many times, are places that are well-known trailheads, like for the Lewis and Clark Trail.
Okay.
So here, I think of examples of trail towns across the country, and you can see what we're talking about. St. Louis, Missouri, for instance.
Sure.
And, of course, ties into the Lewis and Clark expeditions. The Trail of Tears went through there.
Sure.
So that's considered a trail town in many ways because of that. And, of course, a lot of trail towns are places where there are already parks and national historic sites and so forth in the area. And another trail town that's smaller that I can think of in our area is Damascus, Virginia.
Oh, sure.
Where the walkers go through Damascus, and the Over Mountain Victory Trail and the Appalachian Trail are close by. Trails where people can go out and enjoy the resources and recreate and be refreshed. And they also might be able to get another aspect, a component in there like history.
Right.
And so
do you find that the history part is a big part of this? I know if we look at the trails that are here now, of course, we have those natural resources. Obviously, a river is a natural conduit, right, for things to happen there. But if you look at Wilkes County, we have the Daniel Boone Heritage Trail.
Exactly.
And the history that's there, it's real. It's not a fantasy. A lot of people will think, well, Daniel Boone was a guy on TV, and they don't. Maybe they're not aware of the actual history. And in Wilkes County, there's a significant Daniel Boone heritage experience that people can have.
Exactly.
And that's worth talking about, I think, RG, because it appeals to the history side as well as all of it's outside.
Yeah, when I was at Carscott Reservoir back in the early 80s, the National Park Service came and we're talking about could the Over Mountain Victory Trail go through Carscott Reservoir. So I learned about that, and the guy said, bring your musical instrument, come around the campfire tonight, and you can learn about the Over Mountain Victory Trail. And I became hooked in the story, and I'm still heavily involved in that. And similarly, the Daniel Boone Heritage Trail happened because I was with a group of people that had a vision of taking that piece of history, tying it to the landscape that we have here in Wilkes and the events that happened here, and seizing on those opportunities to go out and enrich other people's interest in the history. So I've always been kind of all about that, but that's the way things can happen when you got people focusing on the history, the natural resources, and saying, how can we pull this together so it means something?
Do you find that it's more interesting for for visitors or for people that live in the county to participate in an outdoor activity when history is attached to it? In other words, you can say Boy Scouts, of course, would have naturally latched into the Daniel Boone idea because of his story being so part of the early days of Boy Scouts. But
yes,
in general, when people are in town, I remember in Wilkesboro years ago, I don't know, that may have been when we first met, RG. It was during a ghost tour, right?
Right.
You remember the ghost tour, and there we were talking about other American early day American heroes locally, like Benjamin Cleveland and his brother Robert Cleveland, and their part in the Revolutionary War. So that was a big piece of history that drew people in, right?
I learned something from that too, and found out back when I was in Hartwell Lake in Hartwell, Georgia, back in the late 70s, I used to work at an environmental education center in Anderson, South Carolina. Well, come to find out, one thing that we wanted to do as a chief aim was to get kids out and to come out for environmental education, and we wanted to get their hands dirty, and they wanted to do some things so that they got to participate.
Right.
Well, we, as a microcosm, we do that too with the Over Mountain Victory Trail with the students here in Wilkes. When they come out for a field trip, we try to do some things that are activities they can use their hands to make things, like in colonial times.
Sure.
And that ratchets the memories and the scale of how it sticks a lot better to that student than just tell them a story.
Okay, so let me understand. So you're suggesting that if you're merely out doing historic interpretation, all right? So you're presenting to an audience, that's one type of impact and memory that the audience walks away from. However, if there's an actual tactile experience for a kid or an adult to have, that the thoughts and the experience and the memory sticks more?
Yes. I agree to that. I believe that also is really important. Right. And our experience isn't going out and using the trail. If we can actually do some things that are hands-on, I've had people even tell me this, that if they go out there when they use a trail and they take some trash bags with them and pick up some trash, then they actually become somehow more dedicated to the trail by doing something positive than they might be by just going and taking a walk on a trail. So I've seen that actually happen with some of our Greenway users out here on the Yadkin River Greenway. And I asked them, I said, that's great that you're picking up trash, and said, well, that's become part of my routine.
Right.
That makes I'm pulled in as the importance of this natural resource and why it's significant for me by actually trying to do something positive.
Right. Well, we're not going to try to break that apart and figure out why people litter in the first place. We'll save that. Exactly. We'll save that for another day. Yeah. However, this idea that because earlier we just said we're talking about you've got an event and there's an actual thing that kids can do to use their hands and help them remember, adults can do to use their hands, help them remember. But you just brought out something that the one thing that you could do, let's say the activity's not there, but an activity that would benefit nature would be picking up trash or whatever it might be. But that is a perfect example. So you don't have to go to an event, or if one's not available to help you get stimulated about history and the great outdoors, you can do something as simple as picking up trash, and that activity into itself is going to tie you more to that asset, the outdoor asset.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And if you can tie yourself in being significant to your surroundings and doing something positive, it will actually come back to you. And every time they're out there, it creates what I call sort of memory response. And maybe that will become contagious, and other people will see you do it, and they'll want to do it. So those kinds of things lead to a better protection of the environment.
I love that. And I'm guessing because you've had years of experience with this RG, you said maybe it would stimulate it, but you know that it stimulates thoughts in a group of people. May not everyone who's picking up trash or doing whatever, they may not turn into an advocate for the great outdoors, but a lot will.
Correct. And we've also seen students come out on the Ever Mountain Victory Trail, such as activities we had at Wilkes Heritage Museum. Right. And they would make such things as maybe in the fall of the year, they might make candy apples.
Oh,
or
sure.
they might make candles. The old-fashioned method of dipping in the candle wax.
Oh, sure.
Other activities where you can actually work with your hands and make a craft. Those things, a lot of times when you actually do it, it pulls the person in more and they feel a part of it than just watching an activity.
Wow.
It seems to stick better.
That's exciting to me. Just the whole idea that we're in the middle. Wilkes County is in the middle of this mecca of things to do. I never understand when people will ask, "Well, what is there to do?" I can't find anything to do in Wilkes County, and I'm just dumbfounded that someone would say that, because there's so much to do. So you were doing things outside. You were doing activities for how many years, RG? How many years? You started as a Boy Scout, and you're not a Boy Scout. Well, I guess you're always a Boy Scout, but you're a lot older than you used to be. Has there ever been a time in your life, and I mean ever, do you just think back the darkest days, the brightest days, has there ever been a time in your life that you felt like there was nothing to do in Wilkes County?
No, I believe that every day is its own unique opportunity. And if you'll get out there and explore, you'll find something that will lead you to the next place.
Wow.
And that's really cool to think about, because you might go out there and walk say I'm going to walk a half a mile trail. Right. But I guarantee you during a half mile walk trail, you'll find something on that specific day that's memorable and that you can invest a little time in and get some satisfaction out of. So I think it's just possibilities are endless that way.
Yeah, that's great. Well, RG, we've done it again. You know this happens every time we get together and talk. We just don't stop because there's so much great stuff to talk about. We're going to have you back in a few weeks. We want to pick up and talk about some specific things. Let's have a visit where we talk about the waterways and the canoeing, the great outdoors, and let's take a look at those bodies of water for people. And that'll take a show, right? And then we'll do another thing.
Sounds
because
great.
As all things are in life, we have to have little compartments. So we've got our hands dirty today with a few very exciting big ideas, and now we'll break it down. All right, friend?
Sounds great.
All right. Thanks, RG. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you for spending time with us on Life in Wilkes. We value you as a viewer and appreciate when you share the show with your friends and family. Be sure to bookmark our channel and join us again on the next episode of Life in Wilkes.